And we're live. Welcome to another episode of Organize Your Existence for a Life of Happiness and Fulfillment. I'm here with my friend and business partner, Castro, VP. Hi, Castro. How are you
Hi,
doing?
hi, Gobi. I'm doing great. How about you?
Doing well. And I gave Castro some topics to pick from, and he decided that we're going to talk about talking clearly today. And so, Castro, before I start, I'd love to know what you think about talking clearly. What does that mean to you?
What talking clearly means to me is you find that in tech, there's a situation where you'll be assigned some tasks by your clients or the people that you're working with. And these tasks are going to be communicated with you either in text form or maybe audio form. So if you can't talk clearly, it means that there's going to be a language barrier or a communication barrier between you and your clients. And sometimes there might be some misunderstandings between the two of you because you're trying to communicate what you have understood from the person that was communicating with you might be a bit different from what they meant. So, if, let's say, for example, you're given some tasks to do, and maybe it's in written form, and for you, you can't talk clearly, like you understood it in a different way. There's going to be misunderstanding, and there's going to be conflict between the two of you. You won't get what they meant and they won't get what you meant. So there's going to be a lot of stress because you'll be trying to solve problems that you don't even understand what the other party was trying to mean. So that is what I understand when it comes to talking clearly.
Interesting. So then you interpret it in a business setting. That's fantastic. That makes a lot of sense in a business setting. And I think that talking clearly means many things. One of the things that I have difficulty with is talking slowly. And also when I talk slowly, I think that my voice is a little deeper, but when I talk fast, my voice gets ends up being high pitched, and then I'm just like talking fast like that, and it's just too much. And I think it's too much for the other side. So talking clearly, deeply, slowly, it's something that's of value and something that I wish I could do more. It's sometimes I feel I have so much to get through that I just don't have that luxury of talking clearly and slowly and deeply, but I guess it is important. Now, one of the things is when I was an adolescent, or even earlier, adolescents throw tantrums, and when you're a teenager, you argue with your parents, and you know,
Yeah.
you might just blow up uh, 2/5 of the weeks of the year, 20 times a year. It's not once a month or twice a month. Adolescents do that. And when we have older kids, I'm sure we'll realize that too. But one of the things we can rationalize is that at that stage in life, you're in an adolescent phase where sort of you make mistakes. You make mistakes in the friends you have. You make mistakes in your behavior and things. But as we get older, how do elderly people and how do role models and good examples, how do they manage to control their emotions and even in difficult situations, talk so clearly and slowly? I admire them and also wonder how they do that. And maybe one way they do that is through detachment. So limiting their time with people to close people, quality time, and I think that that is something that is of interest. Is just how do they do that, especially when a person who's quite dignified is upset with someone. Maybe the way they approach it is by staying away from people until they can control themselves, limiting the medium of conversation. So if you're in a conflict with someone, first conversing over text, especially, and then getting on a call, thinking about ways to reduce conflict uh, when you're communicating and reduce stress in order to live and maintain long-term healthy relationships with both you people you love and those you like and those you don't like and those you work with. And this is one of the challenges for me, is just to think about how do successful people end up doing these things. For instance, when a person who cares about an outcome, when they feel the anger hitting, how do they still maintain, how do those leaders still maintain their composure and talk clearly? Maybe do they go silent? Do they take a break and go to the bathroom or another room? It's I'm just curious, how do they do this? How do they prevent, if people care so much about an outcome, how do they prevent shouting and jumping around like a little kid? How do they maintain their composure and stay there? Deal with people who don't necessarily agree with them and extend an olive branch to them, laugh a bit. How do people manage to do this? I'm just I'm just I'm just amazed by how true leaders manage to talk clearly in some of the most difficult situations out there. And I'm curious, we've had different backgrounds, we've grown up in different places. I was wondering if you found anyone in your particular family or friends or somebody who is particularly composed and able to talk clearly even when it's a difficult situation.
So what I think, because most people you find that if they're provoked,
Hmm.
um, some of them might overreact about the situation that just happened, but there's some people who will become like it's like nothing happened. So a good example, I'm not going to give an example of someone that is within my family, but I think okay, we had a president who just ended his term last year, and this is someone that I noted something that was very weird and unique about, because every time something happened that provoked him, he could just stay calm and assume that nothing happened. And I was just surprised because he never used to do anything to the person that maybe provoked them. So that is a good example of someone that I can say was trying to avoid conflict or anything that might make, because as a president there's a lot you can do, but he just used to stay calm and assume that nothing happened. It was a unique skill, or I don't know what I can call it, but it was something that was unique within him. Maybe I can say wisdom, because he was very calm, like nothing happened. So that is the only person that I can say I can give as an example in this context.
That's a fantastic example. I think that
Yeah.
that's great. And I think that it's very difficult as a politician. So just in, for instance, my family and friends, I've noted certain people who, even in difficult situations, they're able to talk clearly and not react. And I wish that I could do that as well. Uh, Now, one of the things is, how do you talk clearly when you're still in a leadership position? That is something that is interesting to me. How does one, when there's an incident in one's life or in a business, for instance, where you want an outcome and you can't get that outcome, uh, how do you, instead of going and broiling in a corner, how does one in a business setting state clearly what they want? So this is what I want, confidently, and just leave it at that without being afraid or ashamed or shy to say what they mean. So not being weak, but at the same time also being objective, but not being rude. How does one draw the line? Because sometimes if one is too frank, it comes off as rude. And sometimes
Mm.
if one is too soft, it doesn't come out as leadership. So how does one maintain that crisp leadership? That is something that I'm just curious about, and I love your perspective. I mean, you're from Kenya. It's a completely different culture from the cultures I've
Yeah.
been exposed to.
Mm.
I'm curious, how is that done? Or how is that? How do you think that should be done? Yeah,
For me, what I can say is I'm going to give an example with myself. If
yeah,
I get something that I'm supposed to do, the first thing I normally do is I don't respond immediately. I need to first go through everything make sure that I understand everything as it has been shared with me. And then sometimes I even walk, just go out for a walk, maybe for 10 minutes, try to think about what I just read or what I just heard. Then once I come back, whatever I share it um, in a way that I'm sure my confidence won't look or appear as I'm rude to the other person that I'm communicating with. So going out helps me a lot because I don't like responding immediately to something that is very urgent or something that is very sensitive, because you might respond very fast, but you might forget some of the key points that you might have shared if you took some time to conceptualize everything and then share it to the other party that had communicated with you.
Interesting, interesting. Yeah, I think that taking things a little bit slowly seems to be a trend here, and that's not something that I do easily. Uh, for instance, just one of the things that I have seen in certain political leaders is they're able to take feedback or backlash without seeing it as an insult to their self-worth. And that is something, you know, as much as we say things about politicians here and there, uh, that is something that politicians have mastered, is realizing that everything is imperfect, and their decisions are always going to be criticized. When you're the president of
Mhm.
a country, your decisions are always going to be criticized, and some decisions could be better than others, but your judgment is your judgment. It's fine, and it's you can make yourself better, you can improve your positioning, or you can improve your processes, but if it's you can make it better if it's worth it. Sometimes it's not worth it to fix certain things, sometimes it is. One of the things I always used to watch this show called Paulo Escobar, El Patron del Mal. And in that show, it would show this Colombian drug lord, and he's a bad guy, but the guy was also kind of a politician, and he spoke clearly. And in fact, the Colombian Spanish accent, everyone speaks so clearly in that. And I just am amazed when I watch Game of Thrones and I see the Lord Tywin Lannister. These are bad people, and they're talking so clearly, so politically perfectly. They're managed to manipulate certain situations to their benefit, and it's almost sometimes feels like talking clearly is a skill that good people should also know, because some of the most clever and cunning political minds, they know how to be composed and talk clearly. And if
Mhm.
people who are quite genuinely good also knew how to talk clearly and emphatically, then I think the world could benefit from that as well. Yeah.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Mhm.
uh, I think one of the things that good people do is they seek validation. At sometimes some people are overconfident, but some people are not confident enough, and they may anxiously seek validation, real-time validation. And I know that that's something that's difficult. Because you know you have to take it's explore versus exploit. It comes up in computer science as well. You have to take a little bit of exploration and trying things to succeed. And if
Mhm.
one is always worried about what the other person will say, and one can't trust themselves and their own judgment, then it's difficult to execute in a poised, reasonable, and effective manner. So I'm just curious about your thoughts on this. Do you ever feel that sometimes something is right and you want to have that confidence to do it, and just talk clearly, say it clearly, just do it, but you sometimes have an inhibition or anything like that? Do you ever experience those kind of things, and what is your motto on that?
Maybe you can repeat that question again.
Yeah, just sometimes, do you ever feel like whatever you're saying is good or right, but
Yeah.
you sometimes have the fear or lack of confidence to just say it clearly? Because sometimes I feel that. So,
Yeah, sometimes it happens. Other times, you just share it, but sometimes it happens.
and And when you just share it, does it feel good?
Yeah, it feels good. Like you've given out all that you had within you. It feels like you have released something that was holding you.
But what is the risk in that? Is there any risk
I
in that?
there might be a risk because maybe you're having some information that you didn't want to share because it was something confidential, or it was something that was it's something that might make you maybe have some legal issues with that other party that maybe you shared information about. So sometimes it might be something that doesn't have any risk. Other times it might be risky. It might even maybe put your life to danger. So it depends.
Well, yeah, I think that that's interesting. Life to danger, even because that's certainly, we did the marketing together, right? Bringing it back to us, we did
Yeah,
marketing. We marketed LD talent to many, many different people, and some of those
yeah,
people who gave us feedback, they were passionate, they were brutally honest, and
yeah,
they were not scared of anything. They spoke their mind, right? They
yeah,
would
yeah.
tell us, don't message us again, and things like that. And
Mm,
we had to take in all that feedback. We had to sort of
yeah,
collect the feedback and organize it, and take
yeah,
the
yeah.
most important things that sounded
Hmm.
important, but not if I mean, did it make you more thick-skinned doing marketing with all those people who would just say anything from nice to brutally, uh, like, did it?
Now, for
Yeah.
me, what I knew was that I was marketing. So if someone responds with something that is negative, I will just understand. And what I knew also is that people are very different. People are not the same. You might reach out to someone, and at the time you're reaching out to them, maybe they're having other issues that maybe are not connected with what you have shared. So they just combine the temper and everything and now respond back to you. That might be someone that is having maybe some mental breakdown or something. Other times you might meet someone that is just brutally honest with you. They just want to communicate with you and tell you the truth. They tell you that I'm not interested with this, and the next time you send me this kind of information, I'm going to report you to the group admin, and you're going to be removed from this community. So it just didn't make me feel anything. I was like, it's okay, let's proceed because I have to do this. I have to do keep on doing this, and sometimes this also affected me in a way because um, someone might respond to you and you feel a bit low, but then after a minute you're up. Let's proceed. It's okay. I'm working and I have to reach out to you people.
That's a really nice keep moving strategy. I mean, there's a
Yeah,
word in my mother tongue called vanka, and it just means everyone's gonna have some comment. No matter what you do in life, everyone's gonna have some comment. And
yeah, yeah,
it could be a negative comment. And if we're always seeking validation, well, we're never going to be happy because anything we do, somebody is going to criticize it at the end of the day.
yeah. Sure, exactly.
Yeah.
Mm.
Uh, so I guess, how does one become a refined and measured person? Because I think something that I respect in you is that you know what you want in life. Like, you knew you wanted to transition into software development, and you knew that, for instance, that's one thing. You knew sort of how to empathize with our business as well, and thoughtfully and confidently sort of execute on that. So uh, that's something I quite respect in you and would like to learn from you. And I think many of the members of both LD Talent who see this, and also members of our users of the mental health app that we're building, Chia with Jehoshaphat from Nigeria, in
Mhm.
which this video itself will be embedded. I think the users of that app will learn something too. And something I really appreciate is your ability to talk clearly, say clearly what you want. And I'm just curious, how did you develop that ability to just state clearly what you want? Did you always have that, or is it something you developed over time?
I can say It's not something that I always had, but I can say 50% always had, 50% not always had these. As time goes on, people learn new things, and for me, I can say this is something that I've learned over time. Um, Sharing what I want, like I always like telling the other party like exactly how I feel, because if I keep on holding that information within me, I won't be okay with myself. So
Mm,
sharing what I want, this is something that I learned over time. And when I began doing remote work, a lot of things I learned from freelancing, just being remote, because doing work the traditional way was a bit I can't say complicated, but it was a bit challenging for me because I'm the type of person that likes being in my room doing my thing. I can't say that I'm introvert, but I
mm,
like doing my work just in a room where there's silence. I do my work 8 hours, I'm done. I'm communicating. Like for example, if I want to communicate with you, like we normally use Slack, I'll just share with you what I need. But in a traditional home office setting, people normally
mm,
fear their bosses. I don't know
mm,
why, but I feel like people normally fear their bosses, and someone might be having an issue that they need to address by their bosses, but they're afraid of sharing that with them one on one or in person.
mm,
So I can't say that I was afraid of that. At some point in life, I worked as a waiter, and I was working for someone who is a diplomat here in Kenya. And for me, I wasn't afraid of them. I think this is also something that I might have gained from that uh, job that I did a few years ago, many years ago, not a few years. So for me, I used to address them. If I have any issue, I used to go to them, tell them what I feel, and if they feel like they can maybe address the issue, they can address it there. And then if it's not possible, they can tell me the next steps. So for me, I felt like being in remote setting, it would be much better for me than doing it remote, the traditional office setting way. Maybe I don't know whether I've skipped something from the question that you asked.
That's no, that's very helpful. I just asked, how did you develop that ability to talk clearly? I think that
Yeah,
makes a lot of
exactly.
sense. So actually, when you were in that working with that diplomat, basically, then you were able to express yourself, but was it was it not as well, because right now in our remote work setting it's very egalitarian, right? Everyone is an
Mm,
equal. We're all just a box in a Zoom window or a message in Slack. We're all kind of equal working together, and you're an
yeah.
independent like worker, independent remote worker. You could work with one organization one day, you're free in that sense. You may be a freelancer, you may be considered a full-time, but in the end of the day you have that freedom. And I'm curious, is it that move to remote work that made you more able to talk clearly, or was it that you always had that ability to talk clearly, like how you talk clearly even with that diplomat, but now you feel more comfortable doing so because the remote work is more sort of egalitarian? I'm just a little bit like, how does that story relate to now?
All right. About talking clearly, before I worked for that diplomat, and that was back in 2013.
Yeah.
I couldn't construct a sentence with any English word. I don't know how to put it, but I couldn't construct any sentence. So working for that diplomat helped me a lot because in his home, his wife and children, everybody used to speak English. And for me, as someone that came from a background where the only language that I could communicate was the local language and Swahili. So when I
Mm,
went to them, I was a bit challenged because I have to communicate to them in Swahili. I was working as their personal waiter, not Swahili, sorry. I have to communicate to them in English because for me to serve you, I have to understand your language and you have to understand my language. And this is a family where nobody knows how to communicate in Swahili apart from the diplomat who is the husband to the father of the home that I was working with for. So everybody there used to communicate in English, and here I am. I can't construct a sentence in English. So with time, I learned a few words here and there, and I could construct a sentence. And also the children that I was serving, because I had two kids, they used to challenge me. I even remember the last born was trying to teach me how to say thank you in French. So if I'd stayed there for longer, right now I'd be communicating in French, only that I stayed there for 5 months. Yeah, so that is where I began now learning how to communicate in English, how to share ideas or how to just communicate, generally how to just communicate. Then as I went to the university, I kept on advancing and learning more communication skills. And I remember when I was joining LD Talent in 2018, there was a learning part that you shared with me, I think, about communication skills. And also at the university, I was doing the same thing that I was doing at LD Talent. I was doing that at the university level as part of the course curriculum. So these are the things that I've kept on improving my communication, and it has helped me a lot when it comes to sharing or talking clearly in general.
That's fantastic. Wow, we've known each other for so many years, and I didn't know this story about you. This is so awesome to hear it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic, Castro. I'm so glad that we've done this. Yeah. Yeah. And so, well, I mean, I'm impressed by that story. I thought there was a clear mission in that story and a clear sense of growth. So let's leave it at that. I think
All
that
right.
that'll inspire our viewers. And so
Okay.
with that said, thank you for watching, and please be sure to subscribe below if you like this. Take care.